you have a podcast of your own. I want you to introduce that yourself, of course. But I'm also so intrigued by your profile because it seems as though you've had quite a life journey, and I really, really do want to hear how you've overcome all of the things that you have had to endure in your life.
hmm
So why don't you just start by introducing yourself to my listeners and talk a little bit about your podcast, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty details of it all.
Okay, well, there's a lot to unpack, right? So, my name is Neena Perez, and I actually am shifting. I have a podcast called Straight Talk, No Sugar Added, which I hope you will come on. I like to have like real authentic conversations about where people's journey is, especially in the world of like coaching and entrepreneurship and all those things, right? And I have been doing that for about 8 or 9 years. I have been a coach for about 10 to 12 years, and I've been a chef for about 20 years. And so the reason I said to you in the beginning is that I'm shifting is because I have a program called, Purpose by Design and Wisdom to Wealth, where I help women like get out of their own way and then develop the coaching businesses that they are looking to develop in the world. And lately, though, I feel like God has been shifting me in a different direction. Faith is a big component of my life. And that has been beautiful. So, what I do now and what I think my podcast and all that is shifting to is actually bringing together food, recipes, faith, community, to build something new and to have these conversations where we break bread together because the world is hard, right? So, I want to like cook with you and then I want to sit down and have a real conversation with you about what's life, you
That
know?
sounds absolutely lovely. I would
Thank
love to be
you.
on a Zoom call with you and just make some dough and like see if it's gonna be
Let's
like
do
some
it.
buns or a cinnamon roll, who knows? But that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
So you say that you said that God is a huge part of your life. Would you talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about that?
Oh yeah, faith has been a big piece because of all the things I've been through. Now, I wrote my autobiography back in like 2018 or something. It's called "Hit Me with Your Best Shot," and that's when I realized how much God has really been in my life, right? Because all of us we crave purpose, right? We look for this in productivity. We look for it in people's accolades. We look for it in our jobs. We look for it in all of those things. But I believe that real purpose is discovered when we align our gifts with what God has created us to do. And we all have a story. We all have been through things. We all have a purpose. And I believe that our faith is in God's design. That's what I believe. And I believe in being authentic in that, being bold in that, being faith filled. And I don't deny who I am or what I believe. So it's a big piece of it for me because I've struggled a lot in my life. And when I found God, I found peace and I found direction and I found, not saying that my life was roses because it wasn't roses, but I had something to anchor to, if that makes sense. I
That
don't know if
makes
you
perfect
believe in
sense.
God or not, but that has
I
helped me a lot in my life. Yeah.
Yes, I'm definitely a God-fearing woman.
Mm,
I do practice religion on a daily. You are preaching to the choir. Everything you just said is exactly what I am trying to accomplish. I
yeah.
love that you are opening up this space for authenticity to have the conversations that are tough, and that is something that I'm trying to create in my podcast as well. Because
hmm
even though I haven't had this super traumatic life in any way, shape, or form. I'm actually incredibly privileged, but I still have had my set of challenges and
Yeah.
figuring out just what I believe and don't believe in, and also recognizing how everything I've ever been exposed to has shaped me and why. So I can
hmm
definitely relate to what you are talking about when it comes to that peace that God is providing in the seasons where I'm absolutely challenged the most.
Yeah.
But I certainly do not have the same set of experiences as you mentioned in your profile. I don't mind. I hope you don't mind me
Not at
asking
all.
kind of deeper about that. You mentioned abuse, you mentioned a
hmm
teen pregnancy,
hmm
and I'm sure these are situations that have shaped you tremendously. Would
hmm
you care to talk about that at all?
Yeah, because I think, when I looked back at my life, I realized the things that I thought were done against me. Oh my gosh, my life is terrible. Actually, I feel privileged to have it. So I feel privileged too, right? Because I think those experiences shaped me with who I am today. And so, yes, I was pregnant at 14 years old in middle school. I look at little middle schoolers now and I'm like, how did I do that? what the heck was that, right? And then I had my son entering into high school. So I was 15 when I had my first child. And yeah, abuse started young, right? So I had a stepfather. My father just never claimed me. So my
Mm,
stepfather claimed me, but he also was my molester, my abuser.
mm,
And then I went from there to growing up and thinking, this is life, right? You just get abused. It's what happens, whatever. And I bet my boyfriend, he was like, 17, 18 years old. I was 13. And he quickly became controlling. So I was like hit every day. And actually, I ran away finally at like 18 years old because he tried to kill me. And so when he put a gun to my head, he pulled the trigger, but the safety on the gun got jammed. And that's why I'm here today. And that's what I'm saying about seeing God in these moments where I didn't see him before. Like, the fact that I could have been dead, but God saw differently. The fact that this man, choked me out almost to death a couple of times, but I survived it. I mean, it's just a lot of abuse and a lot of trauma and a lot of things that I now realize that I have overcome and has made me the strong ass woman I am today, right? Because when a lot of things happen, I sometimes have to be careful because trauma comes up
mhm,
and you have to know how to regulate that with breathing and you know um uh uh, shifting your thinking and putting things in perspective. I had to learn those techniques because I was a victim of the depression, the anxiety, the constant worry, the PTSD, all of that kind of stuff. And I say a victim of it because we do become victims of it. And at
right.
some point, you have to feel it to heal it. You
Mm,
have to face it to overcome it. And you have to realize that you are not in that place that you were then. You're
mm.
safe now, or you're in a different place now. So, a lot of that stuff comes up. And I don't know if you've had those moments where something triggers something in you,
Oh,
you
yes.
know? Yeah, right? And you're just like,
Yeah.
and like a little bit of a panic sets in or something happens. And it's because of all of our past experiences that are giving us the remembrance of that thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been through quite a bit, homelessness and having to live in shelters and having to overcome a lot of challenges, divorce, the whole thing. But I've been remarried now 27 years. My boys are beautiful and healthy and well, and they're adults now, living their own lives. But yeah, life has been a beautiful color of different things. Yeah.
Wow. I was not everyone else cannot see my face expressions, of course, because this tends to be like an audio podcast, but
Mhm.
my goodness, you've given me some shockers already.
I
And
know,
that
I know. I'm like, it's a lot.
yes, but I must say you're communicating everything with such grace and with such compassion for yourself, which I love. I think that is incredibly
Thank
empowering.
you.
I'm sure that attachment theory has helped you a lot in terms of getting through all of these triggers that you mentioned, because I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but sometimes I say this on my podcast sometimes, and I heard someone say that it's really hard to recognize an unfamiliar heaven, and therefore we stay in
Mm,
this familiar hell, and we have a tendency to
mm.
attract the people in our lives that are supposed to be our protectors. But when we've been abused as children, or I say we, but in your situation, when you've been abused as a child, we tend to also attract that same abuse as an adult if we haven't yet identified
Yeah,
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 the
yeah.
pattern essentially, or even recognize in ourselves what it is that we need and why, and what a healthy relationship looks like. Because at 14, you probably hadn't recognized what a healthy relationship even looked like at that time.
Right, right.
Can
Yeah,
you
of
talk
course not.
about, can you talk a little bit about the realizations that you made along the way? Like, of course, I assume that getting a trigger, like having someone pull a trigger to your head, that must have been a massive pivotal moment in your life. Do
Yeah.
you recognize a specific, besides this, or maybe this was the pivotal moment, but can you talk about the pivotal moment and how you started to understand yourself better and what that process looked like?
Yeah, I started to realize at that moment anyway, well that particular moment I remember being completely numb to what was happening. I like, oh my gosh, I either freeze, flee, or fawn thing, right? I
Hmm.
started fawning, right? So I started saying, I love you, don't do this, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, at some point, Neen, you have to make a decision. Like,
Hmm.
if you're gonna sit here and keep being like this man is going to kill you. So you have to make a decision, you know? And it was a scary decision because I didn't know where to go or what to do. You know, I didn't
Right.
have the support system. But I realized that I had strength in me that I didn't know I had, right?
Hmm.
I also had a child, a baby who was a year old, who I love more than life, right? So I had to make sure that I can protect and cover this child. So that moment was really a moment. It was a pivotal moment because it was the moment that I realized that I did not want this,
Hmm.
right? I
Hmm.
did not want this anymore. And, healing these attachment wounds really starts at those moments where you start to renew your mind and your thought patterns, right?
Hmm.
Not just emotionally, but spiritually too. I had to
Hmm.
really seek who am I here? What is going on, right? And I ran to a battered women's shelter at that time, trying to just discover who I was. And in that, I really discovered the strength within me that I didn't know I had, right? So
Hmm.
I was in a battered women's shelter, but I was still in high school. So I still had to go to school every day, take my son to school, to his school, because the shelter had helped me get him into like a preschool. So I had him in preschool. I would go to school, come back, pick him up, go, and everything on bus because I didn't have any money. So everything was buses, and then work two jobs, and then keep taking care of my son, and go back to the shelter, and keep going. And so I at the time, you're in survival mode. You
Yeah.
just survive, right?
Yeah.
So every day you get up, you survive. Start the next day, you get up, you survive. I really, in the shelter, I lived there for a year. And in the year I was there, I had overcome and strengthened myself so much that I actually became a mentor and counselor to some of the other women who were coming in.
Mm.
And I realized that about me now. I'm 53. But in every job and every position and in everything I've done in my life, I always rise to the top. Now, I didn't know that about me then because I was in survival mode. So you don't give yourself credit when you're in survival mode. You're just surviving,
Right.
right? You got to start reframing the way you see things, though, because I realize actually it's those instincts and those survival instincts that help me to really create who I am today and who I will be tomorrow, right? Because we're changing every day. We
Yeah.
should. We should change every day. If you're not, there's a problem. Like when
Right.
people, that I've lost in my life in the past would say, you've changed. I go, thank you. Thank you for that. I don't think it's the answer that they're expecting, right?
Right.
But I won't sit in this emotional and spiritual trauma forever. Life is too short for that, right?
Right.
And we have to start demolishing arguments at every moment that it comes to you and sets itself up against the knowledge of God. So
Hmm.
every time I have something that comes against me, I think of Second Corinthians where it talks about that, where we demolish arguments and every pretension that comes up against you, especially when you are somebody who believes in God and God is with you and loves you and guides you. And, I was reading scripture yesterday about how he assigns angels to his kids, how he
Right.
assigned angels to children. I didn't know that. I'm like reading the Bible. I'm like, I always talk about, God send down your angels to protect me. But do you actually do that? And then I was reading the word. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, he does it. And it's many times in the Bible. So I was like, oh, so right now, Maggie, as we're loving God, and you said you're a God-fearing woman, you're surrounded by warrior angels and ministering angels. And I didn't even know that, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, that is so cool. Anyway, I tangent, but yes.
I love it. I'm exactly the same, which is why I love this conversation. I must say, like when you were talking about angels, I kind of got this whole like wonderful feeling inside of me, like because I believe it to be true. I'm like,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah,
It's like kind of we're feeding off each other's energy here, really.
yeah,
But I mean, my goodness, I think about everything that you've had to endure. Like you said, you're 53 today, but this kind of huge moments in your life started at 14. There's been so much knowledge in the midst of
yeah,
that. And of course, I'm sure that's been a long process. But what I'm curious is that because I have never been even near to experience the things that you have, and thank goodness that I've been so lucky. But I do know, unfortunately, that there's so many people who have your reality in one way or
Hmm.
another. And to anyone who is in a toxic relationship or an abusive relationship, even if it's physical or if it's a mentally abusive relationship, how do you start to believe in yourself and believe in your words so that you recognize that, hey, I am not supposed to endure this. This is not how I am meant to show up in this world. How 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 can you advise another person in a situation like that?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you've gone through it. You've done that. You walked the walk. What did that look like?
You know, you need to really start to bridge what it is that it is you want to do. So here's what I mean by that. We have these things where we have our thoughts first. Our thoughts are with us 24/7 every day of the week, right? Our
Mhm,
thoughts are our roots. That's the root of something. Our root will start to create the behaviors of that fruit that's going to come from that root,
mhm,
right? And so if you want to secure love and kindness and patience and all of those things in your life, you must plant those belief systems. You must put those thoughts in the roots, right? So I always tell people check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? So,
mhm,
in other words, really start to think about because you're going to have to take ownership. I cannot do it for you. Maggie cannot do it for you. You have to take ownership of you. So if you're
mhm,
sitting there and you're woe is meing all the time and you're a victim all the time, and I'm raising my hand because I was definitely one of them, right? You will stay there. So when
mhm,
people say to me, "Oh, I can't do it," I'm like, "You're right." They're like, "Oh, I'm not good enough." You're right about that too. And they're like, "Dang, Nina," and I'm like, "Well, I mean, you're thinking it. You're thinking it. If that's your root, that's exactly the fruit that you're going to produce from that, right?"
mhm,
So at some point, take ownership, right? Take full on ownership, and that's what I had to do too. I left that toxic, murderous relationship and got into another marriage who was toxic. Not physically, because I refused to let that happen,
mhm,
but I let all the other flags fly by, right? So
right,
all the lying, the manipulation, having affairs, all of that stuff, I let all of that stuff happen, right? Because I still had no self-worth. I
mhm,
still talked to myself as if I wasn't good enough. I still
mhm,
didn't think I couldn't get anything. Well, at least he's not hitting me. You know
mhm,
what I mean? That's what I mean. So we have to start really finding purpose in what we do and say and be, and especially, Maggie, what we think,
right,
especially that,
yeah,
because that to me is literally the root of our issues, right? And what happens is we have a past and we have, of course, hopefully a future. We don't know because we're not promised tomorrow. But what we do is we take this past and then we now are growing. And as we're growing, we're ad-libbing and adding to the past.
right,
So oh yeah, that was terrible. And then we add to it. Now we're
right,
adding emotions. Now we're adding thoughts. Now we're adding something that wasn't even there, right? So now we're just adding things to our past and we add to our future, right?
right,
Oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if it, and then but what about present?
mm,
What about right now?
yeah,
Right? What about this moment that we're talking? What about the moment that somebody's listening right now? Pause for a second. What are you feeling, thinking? What's in you? Where are you going? And stop thinking so much about adding so much to your future right now or adding to the past and then making it out to be something so dramatic that it wasn't.
mhm,
We all do this. It's a natural thing to do. But what we don't do is really sit in the present and say, "Okay, what are my thought processes here?" And if you have a fear of something and you like something, I want you to write those things down. So let's say I want to do, I don't know, I'll pick something random, skydiving, right?
yeah,
And I really want to do skydiving, but I'm also very fearful of skydiving. I will write all the things why I want to do skydiving. And then I'll write fear and what is it that fear is trying to protect me from skydiving, right?
mm,
And it ends up being that both of them are working to your favor. They're just
mm,
doing it in a different way, right? So you
right,
end up realizing that I love skydiving because it makes me adventurous. Fear is actually there because that's too adventurous, but it might be dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So I want to do it because it's dangerous, and fear stopping me because it's dangerous. They're both the same thing,
Yeah.
right? So if we can reframe what that thing is that's stopping you in life, really look at it like all that abuse that I've been through it, but I can talk to you, Maggie, without breaking down, without crying, without being traumatized. I've done the work. And the
Yeah.
work means you stop, you pause, you are present with yourself,
Mm.
figure that out with you and God. What is it, God, that you wanted to teach me from that abusive relationship? Oh, it's for me to help other women. Got it.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you say to yourself, Maggie, when you've said it before, I've been so privileged. My life, I haven't gone through those things. Maggie, people need that. They need you to be somebody who has been privileged, who has been going through those things, right? Because not everybody has had to go through the drama.
Right.
Not everybody needs a whole freaking dramatic life like I had, right? Some
Yeah.
people need that stability. Some people need to know that it's okay to not have that
Yeah.
and to still be,
Yeah.
and to not be, thinking that you're privileged. So what? I'm privileged too, right? But people need that, Maggie. So they need your voice and they need to know that, okay, I matter too. Just because I didn't go through all of those things doesn't mean my life is invaluable.
Yeah.
Does that make
Wow.
sense?
It makes sense and it's
Okay.
incredibly validating. I really enjoy listening to you talk. I mean, in on repeat in my mind right now, I'm like, man, you are such an impressive woman. I
Thank
really
you.
do believe that.
Thank
You
you.
yeah, it's really impressive to hear the way that you articulate yourself, especially everything you've gone through. And I have this episode where I'm talking about that I believe that there's two types of people in the world, that it's the victim and then there's the victorer. And
Yeah.
you are portraying everything that is the victor, meaning that what I believe is that we are all people who've gone through a series of experiences in life, and
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form, no matter how privileged you are, you've probably encountered sorrow and grief and
Yeah.
happiness and being in
You have
love,
a
but then
human
getting your heart broken.
experience. Yeah.
You have a human
Yeah.
experience, and this is true for all of us, but I believe that the victim is always going to look at the situation and be like, hey, this happened to me, therefore I
Yeah.
am, whereas the victor is going to be using that as fuel to move forward and bring purpose
Right.
and to create
Right.
something that is going to be helpful. And in your situation, you want to help other women, which I think is beautiful, because I mean, as much as women are way more on the radar today, we're not nearly enough on the radar when it comes to really being understood and really
Yeah.
being prioritized when it comes to recognizing what it means to be a woman. And
Yeah.
I love that you are that voice and you do such a good job of articulating yourself too. So thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah.
I do wonder, I mean, there's so much here. Like, I hear sometimes that, I mean, even just in myself with like a history of an anxious attachment when it comes to dating, for instance, like I even had a really hard time breaking out of a relationship and actually not repeating the loop, or like
Yeah.
breaking up and getting back together again, breaking up again, back together. I can only assume that that is even harder when you're in an abusive relationship. I don't know why I necessarily believe that, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. But can you talk a little bit about like if someone is now in a situation like this and they have broken out, but then they get back or they get back into it and out again, and they're feeling this incredible sense of shame or just disgust
Hmm.
because if they feel so weak because they can't get themselves out of it, like how did you help yourself get over those pits, and what was the breaking point that led you to actually successfully say no to that relationship once and for all?
Healing is an act. I believe healing yourself, and especially from shame and unforgiveness and all those things, is really an act of faith, right? Every time that
Yeah.
you choose to act differently, to pause, to pray, to forgive, you're going to start rewriting your attachment story. So
Yeah.
you need to pause, and you need to really step boldly in what it is that you want. And a lot of times, the reason we keep going back and forth is because we don't know that. We don't
Mm.
know what we want, what our worth is, who we are, right? So I say really start journaling, really start finding a good friend that you can call when you're feeling like you want to go back.
Hmm.
Right? Like I still have my best friend from when I was 15 or 18. So
Oh,
we've been
beautiful.
friends for 36 years, right? No, yeah, 36 years. So I was 15. Um, And she's been there for through all of the abuse, through all of the years, through all of the things, right? And I know because back then when I wanted to go back, I would call her.
Hmm.
Like, Maribel, she'd be like, okay, girl, let's go. Let's go talk. You know what I mean? So it was like you have to surround yourself. And so what I mean by that is sometimes it's hard to get into the practice of stopping and pausing and praying. And it's really difficult to get to the practice of forgiving,
Hmm.
right? And shame and all of that comes with that. So I would say that if you're in that relationship where you want to go back because you have an illusion, now this is an illusion of what you've created, where this person means everything,
Yeah.
even though they've abused you, they've hit you, they've manipulated you, they've done all the things, they've gaslighted you, everything. And you've created this illusion that this is the one, right? So you go back and you keep doing, and a lot of that is a self-worth issue.
Yeah.
You believe you love them and you probably do, but you don't love yourself enough, right?
Yeah.
Because no one has the right to treat you the way you don't allow. Like, see,
Right.
people know me. They know I won't take the BS. So they know that, not her, next, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we have to start doing is uncovering that. What is our purpose and what do we want to transform and what is it that I will not tolerate? Like for me, after that marriage was so destructive, especially because of the manipulation, the gaslighting. He was really good with the mind games, you
Mm.
know? I
Mm.
had to heal from that. And I
Yeah.
had to heal with friends, therapy, all the different things that you have to do to get yourself forward. But I tell you, it's the best thing in the world when you break yourself off of that and realize who you are.
Yeah.
Realize that you are worthy. And that person does that to you because you are,
Yeah.
because they know that you're worth so much. Right.
Yeah.
And so I really believe that you really need to pull and remember that healing, especially those of you who are people of faith, healing is an act of faith.
Yeah.
Start to heal and start to choose differently. If you want to call, don't. You know what I'm saying? If you feel like you need to, I don't know, purchase something that is out of your, a financial realm, don't. Start
Mhm.
choosing differently. And you will start to see that they become little patterns of habit and
Yeah.
then they become who you are. Those are the roots that you're now planting. And now you'll eat the fruit of that, which will be peace and joy and self-awareness. All of those things are important, Maggie, because you're right. A lot of us do feel like, how do I get out of this? What do I do? And some
Mm.
people are in the marriage of it, which is
Yeah.
even harder,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because once you're married, now you're talking about getting divorced. Sometimes there's kids involved, so it's a really challenging thing. To me, I always seek God first,
Yeah.
right? For wisdom. I'm always asking for wisdom. I ask God for wisdom more than I ask God for finances and money and business and blah, blah, blah. I'm always asking for wisdom because wisdom will take you to the job, the money, the business, right? You need the wisdom to do that.
Yeah.
So I will say to women out there who are struggling with all of that, that, God has designed you for whatever God has designed you for.
Mm.
And the world tries to steal that from you, beat you up, take it away from you, whatever that is. But if you start to pause and plant yourself in the root who is God, you're going to bear the fruit of that. And I'd rather eat the fruit of that than the fruit of what the world has to offer. That's just
Yeah.
how I feel about it. Yeah.
That actually almost answers what I would want to for the next question to be, or but I still kind of want to talk a little bit about it because I know that for you and I believe that it's very intuitive to seek God and to
Mm-hmm.
go to Him first when we're struggling. That is very
Mm-hmm.
true for me. I whatever it is that I go through, especially because when you're talking about these habits and the patterns, I know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you're talking about because I am in a season of my life where I'm recognizing it now. I see it, and then I'm like, okay, stop, pause, exactly like you said, take in a breather, and then I'm asking myself, um, how can I trust God in this moment and do not act on
Mm.
my habits? And I'll sit down and pray, and He will just give me peace. It's that simple. It just gives me peace. And
Yeah,
in
he
that
really
moment, I'm
does.
no
Yeah.
longer anxious about the thing I was anxious about a couple of seconds prior. But I know that there is so many people who are not practicing faith. There are a lot of people who didn't even grow up with faith, meaning that they've never really been introduced to it. I'm doing this alpha group right now, which is kind of I'm in Norway right now, and I'm going to church, and I'm attending this Alpha group on Tuesday nights where we're essentially getting to know God even deeper, even closer.
I love that.
And there was a video this week where they were talking about how there was this man. He'd also been abused. His alcoholic parents, and he'd been married and remarried, and been in prison himself. And then the first time he was ever introduced to scripture, he was like, why do I not know this? How do I not know this? Meaning that a lot of it is just ignorance. A lot of it is kind of having some sort of bias or some sort of prejudice towards the church or
Yeah.
whatever, whatever fate look like. But all of that to say that a lot of it is just not knowledge. Did you always have God as a part of your life, or is that something you once found? Or how would you introduce God in the best way to someone who's like, but I don't even know where to begin. I didn't grow up in any religion, or I don't know how to practice faith.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yeah, my grandmother used to take me to the Catholic Church all the time and make me go to communion and confirmation. I knew there was a God in that way, but I always felt like he was a mean God, like he was just a judge. Everything I would do, I'm going to hell anyway, type of thing. So when I
Mm,
grew up and I got a little bit older, I didn't really follow a faith. I think I was more agnostic than anything.
mm,
And then I discovered him in the midst of actually doing a practice called Santeria, right? Which is worshiping other saints and things like that. Not a good thing, but I didn't know it wasn't a good thing because I wasn't aware. I wasn't alive to who God is in my life, right?
mm.
And purpose isn't found in your title. And I think that that's what the world keeps feeding us, that your purpose is your title, your purpose is your job, your purpose is your business, your purpose is whatever they paint for you out there. But your purpose is actually found in transformation. So when we stop chasing who the world says that we should be, we really can finally make that space to become who God has already designed us to be. And so I will tell people that if you're not somebody who believes in God, or you don't think it's real or whatever have you, I would say to you, I'm going to challenge that thought process. And I'm going to really start asking you, well, where are you going then? What are we doing in this world then? What is the purpose then? Right? And because to me, I honestly, I used to, I always knew there was a God out there because I can't look at this magnificent world or how you and I right now are breathing, seeing, our heartbeat is going, our lungs are filling with air, our body is actually doing its thing without us commanding it, right? And
Right.
it's just something like that. Like there's just too many intricacies and truths of who God is. There's a lot of evidence, and there's just too much for me to look at it and go, nope, I don't see it. Right? And people will say, well, I don't have faith in it. No, you have faith in everything. When you walk in your room and you click on the light, you're expecting that light to turn on. So you have faith that the power company made sure that you had power to that light switch. Stop the nonsense, you know?
Yeah.
So I always
That's
say to
funny.
people, just stop the nonsense. Because to me, it's like, you know what? If you're really thinking that purpose is found in your title, I feel very sad for you because your title changes all the time,
Yeah.
right? And your
Hmm.
job changes all the time. So I want you to become who God has designed you to be. And like I said, we all crave purpose. We all crave that. We often look for productivity and in people and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell you to just freaking pause. Pause for a second and ask, what am I doing here for real? What is my purpose seriously? Not like, oh, I have my 9 to 5. I'm not talking about that.
No,
I'm
but
talking about how are you connecting with other human beings? How are you actually living your life seriously? What does authenticity mean to you? Are you authentic at all? Like when you show up, are you really you? Who are you anyway? Who are you? Right? So, God is a very interesting topic because I think it's something people challenge you with,
yeah.
but also can't sustain when they're challenging you because you can quickly turn it around to them. Oh, I don't believe in this. Oh, well, what about this? No, oh well, I don't believe in anything I don't see, as somebody told me.
Yeah.
I said, really? How's your mom? Oh, good. Do you love her? Yeah. How do you know that? How do you know you love her? What do you mean? I feel it. Okay, but you don't see it. You can't believe what you don't see. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it's these talking points that we have I think as agnostics or atheists or whatever, because we
Yeah.
don't want to face the reality that there are consequences to what we do and say and act and how we treat people, right?
Yeah.
Because God says, love the Lord thy God with all your mind, heart, soul, and strength, and then love
Mm.
your neighbor as you would yourself.
Yeah.
And so that means, how do you treat people? You're going to have consequences to that. How do you treat yourself? How do you treat your community? How do you treat people you come in contact with? I will constantly praise God because I've seen what he's done in my life, but also how he's healed people in my life, the people around me, how my community has come together to support other people and ourselves when we
Yeah.
needed it. So, Maggie, all I would say for those who don't believe, why don't you truthfully, honestly, go seek who God is first before you say you don't believe in him?
Yeah.
Go do that first. And if at all of the things that you've sought in the world, and if you seek and seek and seek and you say, nope, still don't believe, then okay. That will be the consequence of whatever it is happens after we die. Maybe you just turn into dust. I don't know,
Yeah.
But if you seek really and honestly and open-mindedly and you still end up with I don't believe, okay, then that's your answer, right?
Yeah.
But I've sought and I've found differently, and Maggie, obviously you have too,
Oh yeah,
you know?
no, for sure. I
Yeah.
wouldn't, I mean, if I had it my way, I'd probably be dead at this point because there was many, many times that I just didn't want to be here at all because I
Yeah,
didn't really see
same.
the point.
Same.
And
I didn't see the point either. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I completely understand. And it's in those moments when I was like, well, last resort then, pray to God. Last resort. What am I gonna do in this
Yeah.
moment when I was just sitting there
Yeah.
with whatever weapon I had in my hand? And I
And he
was okay.
answers you.
He
And he
answers.
answers you.
He answers
Yeah.
you. Yeah, he
Yeah.
did every time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of remarkable
Yeah.
how blessed I've been. And it's also because I've heard people say something in the lines of like, well, how can there be a God when there's so much terrible things happening in a life or in a world? But it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's also
That's
perspective,
always
and
the
that's what
one.
you're focusing
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, that's just I say it's a ploy of the enemy anyway to keep you in that perpetualness, because the truth is the world is what it is because we've made it this way.
Yeah.
We've made
Yeah.
it this way,
Yeah.
right? Because humans can be very ugly and egotistic and evil. We can. It's just
Hmm.
true,
It's
right? This
true.
is why we need God. This is why we actually need a God. Because
Yeah.
if we didn't have one, we'd be murdering each other every second we get. We're just evil and jealous, and we want everything everybody has.
Mm.
And that's how we naturally are, right? We naturally go towards, well, I wish I had that house or that car or that this or that wife or that husband or whatever the thing is. If
Yeah.
we didn't have a God, we would have no responsibility to any of our actions,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think that most people know that there's a higher power and they go, maybe I shouldn't do that. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying?
Yes.
Just let me just step away from that. Because, God made it so clear, even in the word, when he said, listen, if you lust after someone in your heart, you've already committed adultery. If you murder somebody in your heart, you've already been a murderer. You've already committed murder. Like,
Oof.
it's that serious. It is that serious, right? So when you think about that, you go, okay, I don't want to be that person. So God, help me change my heart,
Hmm.
change my mind, because God does talk about that. Our heart is contentious to God,
Yeah.
right? So we are like, oh, I have such a good heart. No, you don't. No, you don't. I always challenge people with that. They're like, I'm a good person, because I've had people say to me, I don't believe in God. I'm a good person. You're a good person. Yeah. You ever taken anything without permission? Like, stolen anything? They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, so you're a thief, right? And they're like, I'm like, have you ever lied to anybody? I mean, sometimes you have to lie. Okay, what's a person who lies? A liar. Okay, so already you told me you're a liar and a thief. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which part is good? I'm trying to
Hmm.
figure that out. And they're like,
Yeah.
damn.
And
But
all of these things have been true about me too. Like I've definitely, like as a kid, like stolen something
yeah.
at the store, and 100% have I lied, and more often than not to myself first and foremost.
Oh yeah, all the
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
and which is just the biggest deceive I keep doing. Well, maybe not so much keep doing to myself. I think at this point, well, I think it's just about constantly holding yourself accountable and constantly checking yourself,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because I'll also fall like now that I'm in a situation where nothing is really certain. I don't have any
Yeah.
certainties when it comes to job and finances, for instance, or
Mm-hmm.
a certainty when I know what my love life is going to look
Mm-hmm.
like and what my future look like. Nobody knows what their future looks like. We can always
Absolutely.
manifest or visualize, but do we know? No, we don't. But so there's always this constant checking of
Yes.
oneself, and I
Yes.
can totally feel that. And but yeah, the more I involve God in that process, the more, because He will tell me the truth. It's like immediately when I
Yeah, I
answer, so like
know. Doesn't that suck
immediately,
sometimes?
sometimes, oh my goodness, it sucks so much sometimes.
Sometimes it sucks. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah.
want that. I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah, no, but he will communicate and pretty
Yeah.
clearly too,
Yeah.
if you dare listen.
Yeah. It's so
But
true.
I do wonder though, like, so you've said it yourself, you've been a victim, and I too have certainly had this victim mentality. And to someone else who is still in this, like, oh, but they want to blame the thing or the something or the someone.
Yeah, it's always good to do that.
Yeah,
Feels
I
good to
mean,
do that.
yeah, I found myself yesterday. I was having a bad day, and I mean, I'm quick to blame the full moon on a full moon, but at the same, it's just ridiculous. Like,
Me
I'll
too.
I'll laugh and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, poor
Oh
moon,
my
beautiful,
gosh, that is
beautiful marble in the
so
sky."
funny.
But at the same time, I'm like, I found myself talking to my mom about problems that used to be issues like way in the past. And
Mm,
as I'm talking about it and as I'm blaming other like circumstantial things or people or whatever it is that is making me feel some type of way, I
that's
can
so
feel
funny.
myself like, that is not it. It's not it. That's not what's bothering me. It really isn't. And then I would journal, like you said. I will pull up my phone
Hmm.
and I will just write
Hmm.
it out. Like, what is it really? Just write it out. What is it really? And in these moments, I try to challenge myself to be as honest as I possibly can, even if it's
Yeah.
petty, even if I
Yeah.
sound ridiculous, even if it's even if it also is as stupid as like jealousy or possessiveness or
Yep.
insecurity.
Yep.
The moment I
It's good to
allow
know. It's
myself
good to know. Yeah.
yeah, the moment I allow myself to just say the thing, even if it's stupid, even if it makes me look small, it's kind
Hmm.
of this power in acknowledging that, like, you can get me on anything after I've said the thing. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it's a lot about renewing your mind, right? It's about really being accountable to who you are. And I love that you're doing that because that's what you're doing. You're literally renewing your mind every time you do that because you're looking at the reality of what it is and not the facade, not something
yeah,
that, well, I should be because I'm this, right? You're saying,
mm,
no, I actually feel this. This
yeah,
is actually what I'm feeling, right?
yeah,
And, it's renewal happens before you start rebuilding. You have to start renewing first, and then the
right,
rebuilding will come, right? I think about was it Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, right?
right,
Then you'll be able to what is it? Oh, test and approve God's will for
yeah,
you, right? So I think for years, when you are surviving, performing, trying to prove yourself, people pleasing, all of the things, you have to start renewing your mind and surrendering to the fact. And I love that you are honest with yourself because that's the beginning of
mm,
wisdom. Right?
yeah,
When you start to realize that you are becoming something else, or it matters to you to become something else. So you're replacing your limited belief or your bad belief or whatever you want to title it,
right,
right? With your biblical truth or something that matters to you,
yeah,
right? So I think that's super important, and you're really on the right track when you do that, Maggie, because then you are actually saying to yourself, I'm not going to keep living in this facade that people tell me I have to build myself on, or that I
mm,
feel like I need to be in order to become whatever it is you're trying to become, right?
yeah,
You need to be, Maggie, in every space that you're in. Otherwise, you're in no space, Maggie, right?
yeah,
It's somebody else who's there and not
yeah,
you,
yeah,
right? So good for you for taking ownership and for sitting there and saying, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm experiencing. And I love that you said it doesn't even matter how little it is or how stupid it seems. If it's bothering you or if it's stopping from wherever you're supposed to be going, it's not stupid nor little. It's
oh,
something that's actually coming up and harassing you. So it's in it. And I also feel like because you're a person who has faith, I also believe that God exposes these things
yeah.
so that you can deal with them.
Yeah.
you
Oh
know?
my gosh. Oh, you're so cool. You're
Oh,
so
thank you.
cool.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for saying all of that. I really appreciate it. It definitely it warms my heart so much, everything you're saying right now. It's incredibly validating because, sometimes when you're in this abundant mindset and you always want to like lead with love, lead with gratitude, sometimes when you get into this negative mindset or just like
Yeah.
allowing yourself to feel those negative feelings, like I at some point I'm like, oh, am I dishonoring you, God? Am I not doing the right thing? Like, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like, well, I'm not asking you to be perfect 100% of the
Right.
time. And
Yeah.
you
That's the
were
world.
already,
That's the world telling you
yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's
That's a
so
lie.
much truth to what you're saying. I can feel that it's true because,
Mm,
I mean, to me, if I ever had a dream, the dream was to become a wife. First and foremost, the biggest
I
thing.
love that.
I've always wanted to be a wife. I've always wanted that wedding day that there's someone to propose to me, just like that. I love love. I've always loved love. I've always wanted to be in relationships. I've always been in relationships. I'm rarely ever single. And
Oh,
it's
I
because
love
I
that.
really, really love it. But that means that I've also had to do some trial and error and figuring out what kind of partnership I like. One thing is what I thought I wanted, another thing is what I actually wanted, and what
Yeah.
I thought I needed and what I actually need. I am still figuring this out, but I am dating someone now where it's for the first time ever. I'm like, hey, a whole lot of this doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of weird blockages that we're still kind of navigating, and we're definitely working on stuff that I have never really had to work on before. But at the bottom of it, at the core of it, which has been consistently true since we started dating, we were friends for a long time prior. But once we got into that, I have felt this incredible peace in my
Oh,
mind.
I
I
love
feel
that.
so safe, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I and I pray over it every day. But here's the thing, there's so many moments when because very often when you're dating someone, they're holding up a mirror against you, especially when you're someone like you and I who are always constantly working on ourselves and
Yeah.
getting closer to God. You
So
always
true.
think you got it all figured out. It's like I've done all the self-help thing. Already done all of this. But then they hold up a mirror against you. And he's certainly doing that to me now in the most beautiful way because he's so graceful in the way he's communicating things and also daring to have the conversations, but
Yeah, that's
also
good.
coming from a fairly non-judgmental place when my insecurities are on display. But in those moments, like I can recognize that before I would want to create a scenario where I'm like, you have to obey me, you have to give me what I need, you have to do this. But now I'm actually like taking a step back and I'm like, hold up, are these insecurities so loud right now? Because I still have to check myself and work on these things within myself. Why am I seeking so much external validation still?
Yeah.
When I am so aware of who I am and my worth, and also so aware of how much he cares. Like it really is
Mm-hmm,
no doubt in my
mm-hmm.
mind how much he cares. So why do I need these little the compliments? Why do I need the well, sometimes, of course, I mean it's natural. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
of
it in
course.
like
And
a
every
weird
human
way.
does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's I can find myself getting triggered by the silliest thing and needing him to fix that. And I'm like, why do I need him to fix this?
Right, right,
So
right.
at least now I'm kind of coming from a different place where I can actually be like, well, hold up. I am very capable of figuring this situation out without making him responsible for solving this.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what I've messed up a lot of my relationships before is because I guess I tried to project that responsibility onto someone else instead of actually holding myself accountable.
Well, you needed to go through those relationships in order to know that,
Yeah,
right? If
for
you didn't go
sure.
through the relationships, you wouldn't have learned that that's something that you seek and need, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, I think when you start to become even more secure in who God is, even more secure in who you are in God, right?
Hmm.
And the fact that God has already validated you because he put you here, otherwise you wouldn't
Yeah.
even be here,
True
right?
that.
That God has already validated you because he called you into his kingdom and he could have left you in the world and he didn't, right?
Yeah.
So he's already validated you so much already. And I
True.
think that, I think when you start to become even more ingrained in that and really understand not just who you are, but whose you are, it doesn't matter what anybody else says or validates you with because you already know that you're a child of God. You already know that you are loved by God. You
Yeah.
already know that you were chosen, right?
Yeah.
So when you start to really know that ingrainedly, like in you innately, and that's where you're going, Maggie, because you're not the same person you were in the last relationship. or the
Definitely
one
not.
before that, or the one before that, right? So allow God to keep working on you, and that's all it is. And I love that you said that is he a person who believes as well?
Uh, maybe not so much to the extent that I am, but he grew up in a
Yeah.
Christian family, so he
But
has
he,
those
so he knows
values. Yeah.
God. He
He
knows
knows
God.
God.
And
Yeah, for sure.
okay, okay. So iron sharpens iron, Maggie. Iron
Yeah,
sharpens iron, right?
true
And
that.
if he keeps saying things to you that are sharpening you, good. You
Hmm.
sharpen back and he sharpens, and then you lead him to God and he sharpens and you lead him to and
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying? That's
I
what it's
do.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I will highly recommend, whether you guys do this, I don't know, or not, is pray together.
Yeah, I do.
Pray,
I have written
pray
this.
together.
So
Yeah.
I have we're currently in a long distance relationship, so we're not even actually in the same country or continent even. But I have written this as one of the things that I'm manifesting in my life because I really that is something that I do want. And even if I'm
Yeah.
the one who catapult that or begin that, that's perfectly fine. Someone needs to kind of start the prayer going anyways. And I've written it down like I am manifesting a man in my life who I pray with, and that is
Yeah.
important to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny how you said that. I made this completely about me, which was not intentional, but you're so wise, and I really enjoy listening to everything that you're saying, and it's really helpful. Um, did I lose you?
There you go. There you go.
Oh,
You
there
froze
you.
for a second.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Shoot. What was the last thing you heard me say?
You were saying that you were manifesting this in your life where you wanted
Yes.
to, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then I went on to say that I'm sorry that I made this completely about me, but you're so
No, I love this
wise. Yeah.
conversation. I love it. You know, you're God's handiwork, right? You're created in Christ and you are here to do good works. And you know, God will prepare you for that in advance. He
Yeah.
will prepare you for that. And that's what he's doing now. You are on the training field right now. You're just preparing, you're growing, you're expanding. You're looking at who you are and whose you are. You're trying to align and bring clarity to that, right?
Yeah.
And when you align your gifts with God's purpose, you're going to start striving and you're going to stop striving and you're going to start really flowing. That's when you're going to know, right? Because purpose, it doesn't ever become complete, right?
Right.
It's an always an everyday growing type process. And that's where you are, Maggie. You're just in the training grounds. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you're in the middle of training, girl. That's all that is.
And it's like when I am constantly praying for a husband, of course, God is going to shape me into someone who is ready to be a wife, meaning that all of
Yep.
these challenges make
He
so much
sure is,
sense.
Maggie. I'm
And
sorry to tell you. There's a lot of training. I'm
well,
sorry to tell you, girl.
at least I know what it is. At least I
Yeah.
know what when I'm faced with all of these different challenges and what they look like, at least I
Yeah.
can identify, hey, this is just one of those things. I am learning something in this moment, and it doesn't scare me as much anymore because now I at
That's
least
so
know where
good.
I'm
That's
going
so good.
for. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I love? I love that you mentioned that you've always wanted to be a wife. Do
Yeah.
you know how much the world has beaten people up for that? You know what I mean? Like women
Mm.
nowadays will never say that. You know, like they think that that is beneath them, that they should be out there doing the corporate world thing and doing it. And I'm like, actually, there's something very beautiful about being at home, raising your family, being with your husband, even doing your own thing if that's what you want to do. But there is something beautiful about that strength of being there and being purposeful, right?
Yeah.
And I wish that more women would understand that was stolen from them, you know?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's why women struggle in that masculine energy, right? Because you're constantly on the go, on the go, on the go until you're sick,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's because we weren't really built to do that. That's why it's called masculine energy, you know? Let them freaking do it. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I think because you know, God did to even from Adam, right? Talked about giving him a helpmate. We're talking about creation, the beginning of time,
Yeah.
right? She was there to be his helpmate, yet women have become the men in the relationships,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's a tough place to be, Maggie, when we're constantly having to do everything and being the one that brings home the bacon and cooks it and does it and then we wonder why we're broken down, we're exhausted. The world has been more depressed now, Maggie, than ever,
Yeah. It's
you
true.
know?
It's true.
And it's, you know, because we've lost our way, our purpose, our callings. We've lost all of that. We're following the next guru. We're following the next big coach, the next big whatever. You
Yeah.
know, like we just keep following other things instead of just pausing and finding out what is our purpose?
Yeah.
Who
Why
am
am I
I? Why
here?
am I
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why
because
am
I'm
I here?
here.
Yeah.
100 years from now, my great great grandkids are not going to know who I am. They're gonna barely even know my name if they
Mm,
even know that,
mm,
right? So what is my purpose right now?
yeah.
Because 20 years from now, maybe my grandkids will know me, but nobody after them will probably know me.
Mm. I
So
don't know
why am
about
I
that.
worried? Yeah.
I say that because I'm like, people are going to be telling stories about you, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. But they never met me and they wouldn't know me. Like we still talk
True.
about in the United States, we talk about, maybe Abraham Lincoln or, all these presidents or whatever have you. Nobody will have the impact that Jesus has. But the
True.
whole point is if we can just let's just worry about our nucleus, our families, our communities, who we can impact right now. Like what me and you are doing right now is
Mm,
we are in the airways right now.
yeah.
Somebody somewhere is going to listen.
Yeah.
Somebody somewhere is going to say, damn, I needed to hear that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So let's worry about that and stop
Mm.
worrying about, I got to reach 1 billion people by 2026. Like, I don't have, who has time? I don't have time for that. It's too much work.
And before you know it, you've done it without even trying. Isn't that the beauty
I
of how
mean,
great
yeah,
God
because
is?
he's so good, right?
Yeah.
And if we can reach people like that, but them knowing immediately Maggie's a child of God, Nina is a child of God, that's what we should be purpose and focused on,
True.
especially as people who believe in God. That
Hmm.
God should be first. Like when you see me, you should know I am a child of God
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Then I'm a coach and chef and blah, 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 whatever,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Those
Oh,
are just titles. Yeah.
you're right. Oh, this hour went by so fast. There's
Oh
so
man,
much
it's
I
an
would
hour.
love. Yes, I mean, there's
An
so much I
hour.
would
Oh
love to
my
talk
gosh,
to
I
you
could
about.
talk to you forever.
Yes. Well, I would
Oh my
love to come on
gosh.
your podcast as well, simply
Yes,
just because I want to
please.
keep talking to you. I just think that you're so interesting and funny and
Thank
cool. Like I
you.
want to learn from you. I want to hear everything you've ever had to endure. Like it's so cool. Thank
So
you so
cool.
much for everything that you're doing, Nina, and thank you so much for wanting to be on my podcast. But before we wrap up, is there anything we haven't talked about yet that you want to talk about?
We talked about so much. I will say that I'm having a really fun project right now. It's called the Purpose-Filled Kitchen, and
Okay.
it's about faith and food and community and all that. So I really would love people to go to either Chef Neena Perez, which is NeenaPerez, or the Purpose-Filled Kitchen. It's about to launch in a couple of weeks on YouTube. So I would love for people to follow me there so I can grow that community.
Yes. Oh, I 100%. I mean, you're such a cool person. Anyone would
Thank
be
you.
privileged and so lucky to learn from you and to see what it is that you're building, to be a part of what it is that you're building. I certainly want to be a part of what it is that you're building.
Thank you.
And I feel really, really blessed today to have had this conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really, this was a pleasure. Oh, you were so cool. I love this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.